it from there. Do a full screen share. Okay. Is my full screen visible? Somebody say yes, no?
Yes, yes, very much.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Deepak. All right, fellows. So thank you for attending this session. And this remains the objective. What I'm going to cover is the typical TOC framework of why should you even consider DDMRP. So I'm not assuming that all of you guys know DDMRP. There'll be so many people in this session who would have heard DDMRP. They would have probably heard, as a fantastic thing, but they don't know why should I even consider DDMRP. So that's the first question that I'm going to answer. Then what to change, that in your existing environment, what is it that DDMRP proposes to change? What is wrong in your current environment, which is probably giving less than satisfactory results? So that's what I'll talk about briefly. And then the solution part of DDMRP. What should you change to? That, of course, now let's say together we figure out what is wrong in the current way of planning. Then what should be a brief direction of what should the rest of the solution be, which is what DDMRP solution in brief is what I'll touch here. And then lastly, how do you cause this change when you're going to DDMRP, which is obstacles and the steps that you should be taking. So that's how I am going to cover this session. All right, so let's start with this. Why DDMRP? Now, let's start with firstly, the positive results. And you'll see some of your own companies coming here. All right, so the results with DDMRP are amazing. If you have seen the Demand-Driven Institute's website, and even some of the testimonials that we in Yagna have, you will see not what we are saying or consultants are saying, is a testimonial what the customer itself is saying. For example, this is from British Telecom, and this is a verifiable quote. And the senior person in British Telecom is saying, strong positive impact on cash flow and return on capital employed. Overall inventory reduction of about 20 to 30%. It's a British Telecom, a very well-matured company. They thought they are not only, there's nothing better to do. And yet they got this 20 to 30% improvement. This is Coca-Cola, South Africa. They said there's no infighting about what would do right and who's wrong. And in just 2 months, they have shown 29% reduction in working capital. That's Coca-Cola. Fantastic results. By the way, they implemented Intuit Flow there. Michelin. Since the beginning of the pilot phase, they started with the pilot phase there in France. We have not identified any crisis, and we have noticed an increase in the sensitivity of the factory to customer needs. So understand this. This happens everywhere, that before DDMRP implementation, salespeople are blaming factory people for delayed order to customers, and factory people are blaming salespeople for useless forecasts and all of these, plans which keep changing. Now there is this quote, we have noticed an increase in the sensitivity of the factory to customer needs. It means production guys and sales guys are talking together in the same symphony page. These are some of the fantastic stuff. That's why you should consider DDMRP. Think about at least exploring DDMRP. Indian codes. So of course there are companies who have done it in India as well. There is Duraflex, obviously very balanced comment to support our ambitious growth plans. So, all of the thinking led us to consider the thoughtware behind DDMRP. Now, this is another one from Ramdev Motor. These are all from testimonials, verifiable testimonials from these company leaders. Ramdev Motor is saying exposed 100% additional capacity. Now, this is something unbelievable. Most people, if you're doing a capacity optimization project with combinatorial optimization and some heuristic and in SAP PPDS, they want to improve the capacity by maybe just 10%. But with DDMRP, And of course, working on the first principles, it's 100% capacity reveal. Kohli Industries, another big company, 40% reduction in production lead time. It's nearly half the production lead time. And inventory in system reduced by 20%. This is what DDMRP is doing. Bharat Bijli, we have our friends here saying deliver good results over the years. Again, amazing results. And that's why people should keep building on. Of course, I would say even for these companies who have implemented DDMRP, there's a further path. So after DDMRP, you would go for typical demand-driven scheduling. So therefore, whole operating model is there. Then you go for demand-driven SNOP, so that we move from operational to the longer tactical planning. Then advanced adaptive SNOP, which is at a strategic level. So this whole thing, there is a further continuous improvement in all of these companies as well. All right, now those are the good things, but then there are certain terrible things, negative things in your current environment, which should anyway propel you towards considering a better solution than your existing one, which is your own situation. And typically, we hear the following things from the industry people. Excesses, too much excesses and too many shortages of finished goods. And in fact, raw materials, which exist simultaneously. So for example, when I was in Campari, I was doing one of the implementations at Campari. It's a liquor company, Italian liquor company. So their raw material shortages was causing raw material excesses. And they did not know it. And I'll tell you how was that happening. Because they did not have these, they had all the liquid, of the whiskey liquids and the bulky bottles available. But the small label caps and the bottle labels and the caps and the corks, they used to be coming from China. So they were always short. So many times it used to happen that the liquid, the liquor, grade liquor, which was available for manufacturing and everything, it used to stay idle. So it used to remain in excess. And while something else used to remain in shortage. So the raw material shortage used to cause the raw material excess. And this in turn used to cause finished good shortages and excess. In the same way, sales, they were making what they could make, not what they needed to make. So this happens so often, almost every places. And this leads to further struggling customer responsibility. Customers are complaining that I wanted this and you have not yet sent it. Now, and obviously salespeople want to do their billing and they will push something else so that at least the billing targets are met. Again, no one to blame here. This is the current situation. And then a third situation, a lot of times coming from the IT guy. You've implemented a shiny new planning software, Blue Yonder. It's there. Blue Yonder is, by the way, DDMRP is certified. But you have not implemented the DDMRP model. So really, you've implemented these fantastic multi-million-dollar software. So not just the license cost, but even the implementation cost and the maintenance cost, it goes into millions of dollars. So you still find your old Excel planning templates. They're still in that email circulations. People are still using it. The Blue Yonder or Kinaxis or O9 or even SAP IBP is just not being used. So what's the point? You're not getting the benefits. So these are the reasons. I showed you the positive ones. These are the negative ones as well. That's the couple of reasons why you should consider DDMRP. And of course, from the finance guys all the time, you want to reduce the working capital, which is increase the inventory turns, or please convert accounts receivables to cash. And customers will not pay if they'll always delay the payments if the service is not good. That's the nature of this everywhere. So that was one. Now, what does DDMRP propose to change when coming in? So DDMRP as a solution, I'll just come to it in a couple of slides a few minutes later. But what is it which is typically wrong? Why do all these negative symptoms happen in your company typically? So here is a quick analysis, and this is also break a lot of myths about DDMRP. For example, forecast. Why is it against forecast? It's not against forecast. So let's just start this quick analysis of typical situations, probably even in your companies. So there is one fact. It's a fact. Conventional production planning logic heuristics attempts to plan the entire, let me just use this, entire manufacturing requirements in one single run of the software. In one single run, all of the, so if you're doing SAP S4 HANA or any of the other planning software, even in Infor or Oracle solutions, the software would expect you to enter the master production schedule, and then it will explode the requirements and everything all the way down to the purchase orders in one single run. In fact, lot of times the NPS would be tied even to the DRP module, which is the distribution requirements planning module. So in the night, it'll be one single run in completely together, not even broken in that. You'll have DRP run, and then completely you'll have the MRP run as well. It's just one single run, highly connected, highly connected. This is the fact which happens in all conventional planning. And you're netting off inventory at all the places to zero or to at least safety stock numbers. But you're doing complete net off calculations all the way, because it's the power of computer and everybody wants to use the power of computer, so they're doing it. Now, so you are going to plan all the way from raw material to manufacturing to dispatch. This will compel you to keep the planning horizon long, very long, so that you can buy the time in it. You have time enough to buy the raw material from vendors and then manufacture it and even distribute it to your customers. So because of this, you have to keep your planning horizon long. Now, so you probably have seen master production schedule sheets running into weeks or maybe even months. So L'Oreal, for example, I know L'Oreal does its MRP and MPS maintenance for about 4 months, with next 3 months as called as a slushy zone, and the next month is just the frozen zone. So, but the whole planning goes up to about more than 3 months. Now, another fact. So your customers are not so patient. They have a much shorter tolerance to wait. It's a fact. It's undeniable fact in every customer. So what are you going to do? You would be compelled to fill that long planning horizon. You still need the some input to plan. You have a very long planning horizon. So you will fill, because your customers are not going to give you orders so much time ahead. You will be forced to fill it with forecasts instead of actual customer orders. So that will happen simply because customers don't have that much of a tolerance time. Next, now when you're working on forecasts at SKU level, now whenever you're doing your production planning, every production planner knows that MPS is at SKU level, not at a family product level. MRP run is at an SKU code level, not an aggregate family product code level. So at the SKU level forecast, and for a long time ahead, because you're trying to project about 3 months, 4 months ahead, will always be highly inaccurate for 2 reasons. Disaggregation. Now you're doing disaggregation from family to SKU level, and then so therefore it'll be inaccurate because of law of variability. And then you're predicting much further ahead. It'll anyway be worse. So it'll be a long time ahead. The forecast is going to be highly accurate. So therefore, as the time comes closer for actual customers' orders, these SKU quantities will be highly different from the forecast. You will have not just like plus minus 5%, you'll have a probably 30%, and maybe the forecast is not even coming through what you predicted, which is why a lot of forecast modules in all of these advanced planning APO software, they do aggregation on a weekly time bucket. Almost nobody is doing master production scheduling on a daily time bucket, because the inaccuracy is so much that almost everybody is they can make the thing in maybe 2-3 days, but still the forecast is being done on weekly buckets, so the production is being frozen for a week-long time. Again, you're losing the adaptability. So, but now since your plan cannot stop because you have already, you're already in execution, finished goods will be planned as were planned, will be made and will be sent into the finished goods warehouse. So therefore, a mismatch will always occur between actual supply and actual demand, actual what you're supplying to your customer and what they're actually demanding. It's inevitable, unavoidable. So let me just kind of summarize this quickly in one slide. So results, obviously, you'll have these high excesses, many shortages, all of those problems, firefighting, Excel workaround because MRP is not running. By the way, I could lay a bet. There's probably nobody here who is not on DDMRP, who is doing MRP run on a daily time buckets. You'll probably do even if you're doing it running MRP algorithm daily, but the time buckets being used are weekly. The inputs which are coming, it's again, and therefore you're forced to do an Excel workaround. The angry CFO and angry customers. So let's just summarize this. 3 facts. All of these 3 facts, I'm putting them together. First fact, conventional production planning heuristics attempt to plan entire manufacturing requirement in one single. So this is fact 1. Customers have a shorter tolerance time to wait. And the third is SKU level forecast for a long time ahead will be highly inaccurate. Now, question to you, and I want to hear someone, if anybody wants to volunteer a response. And it's okay, be wrong. It's completely fine in being wrong. Which is the one fact from these 3 that you believe which is capable of changing and therefore should be attempted to change? Which one do you think? Do you think it's fact number 3? Is it this or is it this?
Hi, this is Pinakin Munshi. I think the first one, the conventional production planning, which plans the entire gamut in a single go, that is something that we can change.
I would agree with you. Anybody else who disagrees with this observation of Pinakin? All right. So, Pinakin, that's the correct one. Because you're not going to be able to change your customers' tolerance time. They are outside your system. You just cannot do it. And even SKU level forecasts, the last one, is a mathematical reality. Aggregate variability aggregated is a lower variability and therefore is more accurate. At SKU level for long time is always be inaccurate. So this is the first one, is the only one which you are capable of changing because it's about the logic. And therefore, this core thing in almost every planning system, and this is what we are proposing to say. This is what, when I was trying to answer this question, what to change? It is exactly this. In the current planning world, this is exactly what we need to change. Instead of doing a full planning run from one end to another in one single logic, that's what needs to change, so that the planning horizons reduce. That's what we are going to, that's the thing on which DDMRP solution is built. So if anybody was to ask you, what is different about DDMRP compared to the existing one, this is what it is. DDMRP changes this. Instead of this whole coupled explosion, DDMRP brings about a decoupled manufacturing requirements planning explosion. So this now we just introducing what I was hinting at, introducing decoupling, because coupling, as I just tight coupling in your planning from one end to another, will force a mismatch in your demand and supply, actual demand and supply. And there is further something called the bullwhip effect, studied in US as well as Walmart point of sales data. They were studying P&G diapers, and they kind of realized that the P&G guys realized the sales, and Walmart is very open about sharing their point of sale data. So Walmart used to be sharing their point of sale data, and they said there's not much variation in information coming from Walmart. Then why are my factories, P&G factories for diapers, why are they producing so many in one go and then not producing many diapers in 1 week, and then again going to excess? So this was called as the bullwhip effect. The demand coming from the end, let's say the end customer. So this is the flow here. This is not the Walmart example. The demand coming in from one end, there's a very small variation, but by the time it reaches the factory through wholesalers, distributor, or maybe here in this case, end item assembler, sub-assembler, and then the foundry guys, the demand variation goes like bonkers. And then likewise, the supply variation, which is delays also accumulate. So foundry, if there's a small delay from foundry side to component, 1 day delay, it quickly multiplies into like 1 week delay here, and then maybe 1 month delay here. These delays kind of add big time, which is called a supply continuity. So when you introduce decoupling, let's say if I were to decouple the whole of thing, I keep inventory here and I actively manage it. I don't keep inventory just as like a safety stock, because safety stock is a concept of MRP, which is it's a number which the system will always try to net to. It's not actively managed. So when you create a daily actively managed decoupling position, the variability reduces, even from the demand side, even from supply side. And then the second advantage coming from the previous set of solutions is your planning horizon gets reduced. Earlier, you had this long a planning horizon. Let me just say this. You had this long, just one second. Give me a moment. You had a planning horizon which was earlier, which was this long. But now, with decoupling, the foundry guys can just plan from here to here. They can treat this as a customer in itself. And likewise, these guys can plan supply from all the way here to much shorter planning horizon. So therefore, much lesser variability, as well as less dependence on forecasts. So answering one of the very common questions about DDMRP. DDMRP is not against forecasts. All you are actually going to use forecasts in deciding the size of these buffers in the DDMRP methodology. However, you are not going to use forecasts for actual production or actual dispatch or actual purchase orders. You are going to use actual consumptions from buffers or actual customer orders to decide your actual production or actual purchase order. That's the key difference. And it might appear as semantics, but that's the core of the difference. All right. So again, coming back, consider this system environment. There's a raw material stock. This is a factory which is kind of going to sharing, sawing, building, machining, assembly, paint, configure. You're making a car. So the whole week, this is the coupled system is 8 weeks, almost 2 months. You're making from the raw materials. You're taking almost 2 months to make the car. And then these are probably different factories. This is probably one factory or one department. This is definitely another factory. This is probably a department. This is probably another factory. For example, GM, General Motors, that's how they do it. So you want to reduce this a whole long planning period. And what DDMRP does is now you introduce buffers here, here, here. And these are actively managed positions. So the lead time, whole planning horizon reduces. And you are able to plan according to actual customer level. So the nightly run of MRP, it will stop here. It won't go further down to this level. It will go only if this position is below a particular, in the yellow zone, and no other reason. That's the key thing. The MRP explosion is supposed to stop. It should not go all the way. That's what we are trying to, avoid in DDMRP. And this creates all the magic in DDMRP. So quickly, what is the solution of DDMRP? Again, this is for the new persons, and this is just a hint. We'll be launching a training session, a 2 days training workshop somewhere in August. We'll be announcing the dates. We'll be sharing the registration links for that as well. The whole methodology of DDMRP will be in detail discussed there. So the first thing, it's in 5 steps. The first step is the position. That where do you actually decouple? Now, this is such a decision that it's going to stick around for maybe a year. So this is a strategic decision. It's not even a mid-level person should not be deciding it. The CFO and the company division head should go. Strategic decoupling. What is the logic of strategic decoupling? This is all in detail. And if you want to learn it on your own, there is a DDMRP book. And of course, there are education sessions. Now, then second and third, this is about the settings. That how are you going to size the buffer? And then how are you going to adjust the buffers depending on seasonality, depending on demand which is coming in, depending on forecast. This in third step is where forecast comes in. Here. This is where forecast would come in. And then day-to-day activity, which is demand-driven planning, which is when to launch a purchase order or a production order or a distribution order to your customer. That's what is the demand-driven planning piece. And the last is the execution. Execution basically starts when planning ends. That is, once you have released a production order or a purchase order, it enters execution. Now, here is this thing. You can still do a lot in execution. Now, there are dashboards and demand-driven, based on demand-driven methodology. Those dashboards, they really help you in deciding what to rush and what to delay. Even though something has been ordered to your vendor, you still do not want to rush everything on time. So, for example, something that I always mention to my students in the classes. What would you want what kind of supplier would you want? A supplier who always delivers you nearly on the time that you're requesting, or a supplier who adapts to your needs? Do you want a supplier who is very rigid on supply schedules, or do you want a supplier who's adaptive? And nearly always the answer is adaptive, because a lot of times, let's say I've given, I want this particular, cotton from my farmers in November 30th of November. By the time 1st of November comes, my situation has probably changed. So I want him to adjust a little bit here and there. But even if he's flexible, I should know what grade of cotton should I want to adjust and for which particular farmer as well. So all of those will come in the demand-driven execution dashboards. Very, very powerful set of that. So this is a brief, I'm touching upon the DDMRP methodology. Now, of course, there's a whole workshop as well. And it's an investment. The fees will be around, I think, around 40,000 rupees for one person. But it's an investment that I recommend to companies who can afford it. I have trained so many, and people have benefited, taking the value of such education on their own in no time. So, thirdly, how do you cause the change? DDMRP, you have decided on DDMRP, you like what you're hearing, you like what Milan, Yagna, Deepak, Anirudh, Ayush, everybody is saying, but how do you go about it? Should you go all big in, or is there a staggered way you should do it? So, first thing that we always say, that when you're doing a DDMRP implementation, please build consensus. This should be your goal. or not using sales forecast for production execution, which means the production people, they anyway hate sales forecasts, but they don't know anything better to do. So we just need to build consensus that all of the production planning as well as execution. So in fact, the production planning, even if it is happening on sales forecast, which is procuring the raw material, in that sense may be okay, but never do the production execution on the basis of sales. Always do it on the basis of production execution. So first thing, build that consensus, and you'll have to take everybody through that whole analysis that this is causing us a lot of problems, and so that you can do your production on a daily bucket rather than weekly. So first thing, and I'm not recommending a DDMRP implementation right away. So the first thing what I'm recommending to you is build awareness within your company. So do a diagnostic study, which is your as a situation study. How much is your availability? How much is your on time and full performance? What is your inventory terms? Do all of that. And then also do what is the demand-driven concepts education. You can have an introductory DDMRP session. It could be a 3-hour session. You could take 2 days class. Obviously, 2 days class will cost a little bit, but go through that education. Obviously, study your own system first, do a diagnostics, then follow it by a DDMRP awareness concepts education. In whichever form, you can play a simulation game, something like that. A generic simulation game, not for your company, but a generic simulation. But those are even digital simulations are now available. Now, after you build a bit of awareness, you'll see this consensus starting to come. Follow it with an assessment. Still do not go for a full-fledged DDMRP implementation. Now, do an assessment specific to your own company. Do some digital simulations on your data, not a generic data, and see how it's going to perform. Whatever the consultants are promising, do you think on your data you're going to get it? So do that, and then build a business case on top of it. That in so much 6 months, the cost of implementation, the consultant's fee and the software fee, all of that is going to cost me so many crores. And then, but the return on investment within those 6 months is going to be whatever, 3 crores or whatever it is. So therefore, it's a business case. And then a continued business case even after consultants are gone. So you'll have to build your own business case. Obviously, there are any number of experts available to support you. And then after you have done all of this, we recommend the DDMRP adoption. Adoption, first of all, always implement at a pilot, because so far this has been theory. You've liked it, you've touched upon it, you're fairly confident it's going to work, but still start with a pilot. You could start the pilot, and the easiest place to start a pilot is on the raw material side, rather than maybe you could have a small plant. And even in the small plant, do it on the raw material side, because it's the easiest. Very quickly, you can get the results and you can start getting the fee. Then you can move to make finished goods and then move to semi-finished goods. So start with a pilot and then do a full-fledged implementation. And once you're satisfied, you're getting the results, then do a rollout to your other plants and other sort of factories. And then what I always say, I'm not mentioning it here, once you're seeing DDMRP maturing with all of the reviews meeting, move on to demand-driven scheduling, which is at the capacity planning level, on the shop floor level. Because a lot of times after DDMRP implementation, you would be seeing at the routing level, there's still some capacity management which needs to be done. That's where demand-driven scheduling will come. And then move on to the S&OP side, which is at the aggregate level. The best benefits start coming when you go DDS&OP, and then finally adaptive S&OP. So these are the couple of common. I mean, I obviously anticipated the questions, and based on my experience. Now this was the last slide. Now the session is open. I would want you to share your view, and let me see here your questions. Happy to answer any of these.
You can unmute and ask the question, or you can type in the chat box. So, Prasanna, do you want to share some of your experiences?
Yeah, I thought the team in the session would ask some questions. I was just waiting for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So either I've explained myself very well, or most of you were, as it happened in so many online sessions, that then another parallel meeting which is being attended.
Yeah, I think Milan, I think most of the team members who have joined from Duroflex group understand this concept because they are working on this day in, day out. Okay. I think we have implemented almost 2.5 years back. I would say we are very cognizant about what are the benefit it gives, lead time reduction, availability on time, okay, and planning on shorter horizons. Personally, I would like to share my experience. The biggest challenge implementation is adoption and adherence. Yeah, I think somewhere in your presentation, I could see that you have mentioned that is the biggest obstacle. While everybody understands, okay, but most of the people are in their whirlwind. Getting people consensus definitely is there, but still, because it becomes a mammoth task, starting from what is the market demand to sending it to plants, and plants then because it's a running wheel, correct? Orders, it is not, it doesn't stop. Okay, every day orders will be coming up. Okay, you have to get raw material, you have to plan your SFG. Okay. The adoption, I would say, becomes a major challenge. Okay, so we are also grappling with that problem. While there are certain functions who are totally done for that. Okay, they don't know if DDMRP is removed, how do we work? Correct?
Yeah.
There are certain people who are day in, day out on that, and I would say that their life has become very, very easy. Okay, they are enjoying their work.
Okay.
But while there are a certain set of people, they are still doubt in their mind whether it is correcting or not, whether it is solving a problem. Okay, at individual level, what happens? The people try to think how their job would become easy, because every day they have to come to the work. Okay, how their day-to-day stress would come down, because everybody is questionable and answerable, correct, at any level.
Yes.
So my observation is, particularly in procurement function, it has helped us a lot. Okay.
Yes.
Most of the team members will know in advance what is going to go wrong. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, then well in advance, and they don't have any dependency on any forecast to tell them, or any factory manager to tell them that this is going to be wrong. They know it because DDMRP throws those signals. Okay, it tells it projected where it will be the stockouts and all those things. So that way, I think I would share that definitely in Duroflex scenario, procurement has helped us a lot.
Yes.
And this diagnosis study was done by Deepak and his team. Okay, in India, we have to run a lot of SQs. Okay, unlike developed countries. Okay, people stoop to standardization. Okay, and our case, variety is required.
Yes.
Because in India, what happens every 2 kilometers, the culture changes, taste changes. Okay, and still standardization is not driven in building material segment, I would say. And each zone is different. Okay, some mattress what in north will be popular, that will be totally not popular in south. Okay, then it increases the variety.
Yes.
So that was one of our challenge. How do we take care of these varieties? While basic raw material or some SFG would remain common, but you have to play, I would say, we must be standard SQs. We must be having around 1500 to 2000 SQs.
Right.
Forget about the non-standard, because each bed is different and you'll have to cut into that, and all those things
Yeah.
you'll have to do. And while the entry barrier is very small in this business, what happens is anybody can start mattress manufacturing.
Uh-huh.
Whenever there is a huge demand in the market, mushrooming start. Okay.
Yeah.
And when there is
No,
no demand, then
you'll have your local suppliers, local vendors.
suppliers.
Yeah.
These challenges comes.
Right.
The biggest thing is scale up and scale down. I would say in last my 2-3 years ka experience mein, DDMRP has well helped us in scaling up and scaling down. What happens? 4 months we are already into that stage. August, September, October, November. Okay.
Okay.
So it is a season for that, and it is driven by impulsive schemes and big billion days and all those things. That is how they change. Okay, the people will wait. Okay, during this period to buy mattresses or invest into furniture and all those things, because a lot of schemes will come. But your plant capacity remains same, correct? You cannot increase your people with the space and all those things. In that way, I would say DDMRP has helped us because the plant adjustment factors are available. Okay, we know that which will be the bottlenecks, which to be planned earlier. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say that successfully it has helped us. But as at management level, if you see the outcome, okay, ultimately top management is expecting to be a reduction in my working capital. Okay.
Yes.
And definitely I should gain market by reducing my lead time. My customer response time should reduce. Okay.
Yeah.
In our across organization, there is a mixed reaction about that. Okay. That's what I had a discussion with Deepak also a couple of weeks back. Yeah. So I thought that's the input from my side. Yeah.
All right. I get it. So you would want Brendan. I'll just come to you. So you are looking at DDMRP also making an impact, at least in the mind space of the senior management as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And the language, and very correctly said, the language that they want to hear is working capital reduction in terms of money and in terms of lead time, significant lead time reduction.
Correct.
Fantastic challenge, and very much. And this obviously anybody, and it's rare. And thanks, Prasanna, for mentioning it. It's rare to hear supply chain fellows talking about money, and no wonder the Duraflex implementation is going good because you guys are concerned about money. So, but I hear you, and it can definitely improve. And since you mentioned production lead time improvement, my own suggestion right now, and we can have a detailed discussion later, is more on the demand-driven scheduling side, because that's what that controls the time component. DDMRP controls the materials component. So we can look at that and see where that is.
Yeah, rightly said. Actually, that is the expectation from a manufacturing team, my colleagues. Okay. Whatever the benefits we have got into procurement, okay, it has got us more or less stabilized. Okay. How their life would also become easy, because currently they are grappling with too many varieties. Okay. How these SFGs can be planned. Okay. How scientifically they can implement the solution.
The more the complex environment, the more bang we will give. DDMRP will give in your environment.
In our case, what happens? The product is very voluminous. Okay, it is like shipping air from one place to other.
Yeah.
Okay. Unlike electronic components and all, there are strict lines and all those things.
Right.
Our shop floors has to be flexible. And running bigger lots and all those things, the space get completely occupied.
Yeah.
If the material doesn't move. Yeah.
That would happen. Awesome. I think we would like to know more about your particular situation, Prasanna. So Deepak and I will probably do a little bit of a follow-on discussion with you.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Brendan, you have a question? Hi, Brendan. Brendan, your hand was raised, and I can't hear you. You're on mute if you're speaking.
Hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Hello, Brendan.
You can hear me. Sorry, my microphone was off.
Well,
good day to everyone. I'm in the United States, so I am early morning here, whereas I think you're all at the end of the day. And I'm not that familiar with, let's say, the India market for almost anything.
Okay.
But welcome, thank you for welcoming me here. Very interesting topic. I probably could ask several questions, but I'm going to stick to like an adoption question.
Yeah,
And
sure.
just by way of background, I've been probably in that whole process improvement space since, the early 90s.
Mhm.
Used to work with the Goldratt folks and TOC,
Uh-huh.
spent time working for Chad Smith and his mother, Deborah, at what was then called Constraints Management Group,
Yes,
which
CMG.
is where DDMRP emerged from.
Yes.
So so I have chewed a lot of glass, let's say. I don't know if you know that expression, to chew on glass, but TOC was going to be the way, Lean was going to be the way, Six Sigma was going to be the way, technology was going to be the answer, on and on and on and on. So at least here in the United States, I think people are not worn out, but they have seen a lot of things come with promises and go,
Yes.
and not always delivered on what the promises were, or not always been able to sustain. And people are on like a hamster wheel, right? They have all of the day-to-day grinding, running, right?
Right.
If you're from some of the conversations, it sounds like in India it's the same.
Same thing.
I know a guy at a factory he's a general manager there, and he's like so frustrated. He says, all my planners are, they got all these Excel sheets. I have no idea what's going on, yada, yada, yada. Right.
Right.
So, and DDMRP might sound a little bit like, okay, it's the latest silver bullet, particularly that the technology folks are throwing at us, alongside AI, which is the silver bullet to solve every problem, right?
Yeah.
At least here, that's how it's. If you just put AI in front of it, suddenly it's bad things will go away. So my question is, as you look at adoption and as you look at people are concerned about themselves as well as concerned about financial performances of the company, working capital, and so on. But if you're in the factories, if you're in planning, in purchasing, in demand management, the working capital, the weight of the working capital of the company is, let's say, not exactly something that is, swimming around in the soup in front of you, making
As a planner,
your day.
you don't worry about working
all
capital.
Right? No, it's more like, the general manager left me alone today because, because the shop could run without shortages, right? So as you look at adoption, where do you see? I mean, it's one thing for executives to respond to money, but a lot of executives, at least in the U.S., they are hesitant to move on anything if they don't feel the people beneath them are at least on the same, pointing in the same direction, or won't become such a resistant headache that it will drain the executive's time on change management, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So do you see the same thing? Do you, how much of an obstacle is it?
Now, given your experience, Brendan, you have seen everything in and out. You probably even met, I'm guessing, you probably met Ellie Goldratt himself as well. And
I'll shorten it for you.
Yeah.
My father was Robert Fox.
Oh, goodness. You are Kevin Fox's brother.
I am Kevin Fox's. No, Kevin is my brother.
Okay. Wow, good to meet you. Good to meet you. North River Press.
Okay, so yes, I have met I have met Ellie Goldratt. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. This is
So
fantastic.
Neeraj has something to ask. Neeraj Kaushik.
Yeah. I would just come respond to Brendan's thing. Neeraj, I would come to you just in a moment. So Brendan, I totally understand what you're saying about the adoption of these revolutionary methods like TOC or DDMRP, which is always a little lacking. Now, the light which I'm seeing only recently is through the simulations and simulate a very detailed. I'm not talking about simulation through simple from the tool side. For example, Alan Bernard, and we can connect separately. I know Alan Bernard is doing very detailed simulations and actually doing even mapping even the non-bottlenecks, and then mapping all the policies, every policies, even the non-TOC friendly policy, and demonstrating on the simulation that this is not going to work. So I see some light. This has been a challenge, Brendan. Even we used to face this challenge, but now I see some light with these digital twins, especially in the digital twin simulation-based digital twin. That this change management is a little bit seems to be in control. In fact, I myself am talking on a digital twin thing with one of the packaging guys in India who are crazy, and I'm not using the word TOC or DDMRP right now. I'm saying first, show me, I'll show you how your current environment is in all its complexity and why it's not working. So there is some kind of a hope right now. I am beginning to see in terms of convincing the executives.
So if I understand you correctly, you are talking about simulation using actual company data.
I'm
Not
talking about discrete event simulation. I'm talking about discrete event simulation.
Okay. But
Yeah.
populated
So not-
with the company's environment
Yes.
versus,
And-
let's say, a tabletop game or
No,
like
no,
those
no,
old
no,
or like
no.
those old generic TOC
No.
simulator games.
Even developing this digital twin would be a 3 months effort. Just developing
okay.
this. Yeah.
Digital twin. That's a good word. Yeah.
Yeah. Simulation, digital twin simulation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Milan, just to add, since we are talking about digital twin, in fact, Alan Bernard's digital twins actually can recreate the whole company scenario within matter of hours or a day, not even weeks now. So we at Yagna are actually, partners to Alan's digital twins and the Goldratt Research Labs. So maybe Brendan, we can take up this discussion offline. This is Aniruddha here from Yagna.
Yeah, it's a different topic, but
Yeah.
so you feel that's overcoming a significant obstacle.
Yes, it is. And because it's technology and detail, and it's it just makes everything very you can run a simple so remember the keyword is discrete event simulation, which is what Dr. Alan Bernard is also doing. Simio does it. Simio does it.
Yeah. Simulate, you mean?
Even simulate. Yes.
Yeah, I've worked with Simulate before.
Okay. Oh, you did. Awesome. Okay, so I'll just move on to the next question. Thanks, Brendan. Thanks for asking that. And good to know you from Robert Fox's family, Bob Fox, as he was called. So thank you. It's an honor to hear you. Thanks. Neeraj, you had a question.
Yeah. Milan, based out, my question might be specific to one particular location where I'm working in Euroflex.
Yeah.
So it might be applicable to other plant also. So I'm taking care of manufacturing of one of the plant, mattress plant. So in my case, what problem I'm facing, though we are having all the system and total experience of DDMRP and TOC out of my total experience.
Yeah.
One thing what I feel we need to look at, we might need your help on that. Today in overall ecosystem, we are having a peak within the month because we are working in a market, different marketplace. This particular plant is taking care of your e-com, white labeling, then your omni-channel, multiple platforms are there.
Okay.
So in that case, there's a peak within the month itself.
Right. Yeah.
And at the same time, what I see in overall ecosystem today, the plants are being considered as finite capacity. So what is happening whenever there's a peak comes, then there's a catch-up game starts.
Yes.
And somehow we are having other part of the problem also, which certain things are non-buffered also in our case.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so that's why there's a struggle in this particular plant. And so on raw material side, we are having a lead time, so we are secured over there. So we are maintaining good stocks.
Yeah.
But to meet a SLO of 1 day in case of FG, when we
Yeah.
are having central warehouse and multiple warehouses, it is getting very difficult to manage those peaks.
Okay, I get it. I get it. So Neeraj, one question to you. I believe you have NTU Flow implemented, correct?
Sorry,
You have the NTU Flow software implemented there, correct?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. R plus,
Okay.
yeah. Earlier
Okay.
it was R plus.
R+.
Yeah.
R+.
Yeah.
But okay, so now I'm going to talk about a feature which is supposed to be there in all the DDMRP software. So there is a feature which allows. So are you another question? Are you incorporating the peak forecast in your buffered sizing?
So normally there's a projection given by the business every
Yes.
month, and then we are having a 17-week. The logic is there as per the market demand. Prasanna, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's a blend of both, whatever projection they are giving. But within month, if there is a peak, I think that is not incorporated in the system.
Yeah, no worries about it. So one thing which I'm kind of hypothesizing right now. So the ADU calculation itself, the daily ADU calculation, either it can be done on the basis of actual consumption, or it can be done purely on the basis of forecast, or it can be kind of blended. But the forecast, in your case, especially in the case of this peak thing, the forecast will be very, very effective in doing a forward looking. So if you've gone through the DDMRP education, there are 3 ways of doing the ADU calculation on a daily basis. It's part of the setting of the software. A forward looking, or a backward, or a blended. I'm suspecting right now you should be doing quite a forward looking calculation, averaging on forward looking, and your forecast, I'm still saying forecast, your forecast should be entered in your in the NTU Flow software. And obviously the production will happen on the basis of the buffer consumption. So that's one thing which I'm suspecting, which should very significantly mitigate your situation. Second thing is, there is a feature, in fact, I teach it in all the DDMRP classes, handling peak demand. So there is a variability everywhere, but then about 20 days later, there's a peak demand which is coming in. You know it, it's forecasted. How are you going to plan accordingly? In that case, the system kind of reduces the, changes the logic of decoupled explosion, but in a safe way. In this session, I won't be able to explain it, but those features are also available. This problem seems very much solvable, to be honest. I don't know what are those settings and what is the logic which has gone in for ADU calculation. This is a fairly common requirement, and these are solved by such settings.
The factor of manufacturing lead time, which is
no, I'm not talking about that.
I'm just coming to another doubt which I want to get it clear.
Achha, you have another.
The factor of manufacturing lead time, which is purely derived from the cycle time of the product. If you are having 600 different SKU and all are operating on a different cycle time, different capacities,
yeah,
in that case, that should be part of the entire system, so that system can recommend accordingly. Because today everything is flat. What I see, we have considered the capacity is equal for all the products.
So now you are confirming. Thanks, Neeraj. Thank you for sharing this. So you are confirming what I was mentioning to Prasanna, and so your capacity planning, now you have moved away from materials planning. Now it seems you guys need to get into capacity planning module now, because DDMRP, just like MRP, is supposed to be capacity insensitive by design. MRP is also only for materials planning, not capacity planning. So DDMRP is also capacity insensitive. So now, for the capacity planning features, there's a separate module, and it's a very, very powerful. So far you have not seen capacity buffers and time buffers.
Yes.
So once we get into those modules, we'll start seeing these, exactly what you're talking about, product specific capacities and
Yes.
all of those planning. So you're right on the thing. I think it's all converging, what Prasanna said, what you said, what I was suspecting earlier as well. It's kind of moving towards that capacity planning module.
Yeah, we have
Direction.
yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Ramani, you have we have 5 minutes over the clock, but Ramani, I'll take your question. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is in addition to the Neeraj question. See, I also looked at some of the ADU and FDU during my working with Duraflex. Here, I also observed one thing where the recent happenings, which is not taken into account. For example, the ADU, which is always taking for last 117 days, and
Last.
FDU, which is taking for last 117 days, which is almost
There
4
you go.
months.
You are there you go. You are it's a backward looking ADU calculation.
Yeah,
But-
correct. Yeah, correct. It's a backward data which is pulling it for 117 days. And
Right.
also we are looking at the forward for 56 days. That is for next 8 weeks.
Yeah.
For example, I'm giving it for easy interpretation. ADU is 1 and FDU is 3 for the same SKU. Okay, and we add a blend of max of 1. We wanted to account it for the TOI, TOG working. But the recent happening in the market, which is behaving much higher than your ADU or FDU. For example, it is not 1 or 3. It's operating at 7 ADU and the recent happening of last 15 days. If that is the case, the DDMRP, the logic, which doesn't help me to fulfill the market demand with the as out of stock, which is happening at the market side. So is there any countermeasure like a weighted average kind of calculation or some other logic being applied to arrive the right calculation to trigger my right production planning sequence and all those should applicable for the plan side?
Yes. And Neeraj, I think I partially answered that. In fact, I think you will be able to answer this question of Ramani's as well, but let me answer it, say it in a different language. So yes, short answer, Ramani, is yes. There's a different logic available. You can switch, and in fact, in your case, you should switch, but of course, test it out and do all of the. Don't just kind of tomorrow switch to something else. So there is a logic. You can switch to it away from backward looking calculation to a forward looking calculation. In fact, you can do a blended as well calculation, which is a bit of backward and bit of forward looking. And you can, in fact, even define the number of days of which the average should be taken care of. So all of that logic is definitely available. But I will totally agree with you that the logic needs to change from backward ADU to a forward-looking ADU. That's what you were looking for, right?
No. My question is something different. Is it the immediate happenings which is behaving much higher than the what is the ADU which is available in the DDMRP table or the FDU which is available in the DDMRP table? The actual happening in the last 15 days or 20 days is much higher than this ADU or FDU. Okay, if that is the case, if you even calculate the last 117 days, the ADU of 1 can become 1.2. Okay, and FDU can be still at 3. But the reason happening is
you would not need to. So again, I would question the need to do an ADU based on the last 117 days. It should probably be based on maybe just last 30 days.
Yes, that's what I'm asking. So, is there any weighted
Yes,
average?
you can do that. Yeah, you can do that.
Weighted average kind of simple instead of simple average. Do you have anything weighted average? The recent happenings, I will be giving higher weightage so that my anticipated stock out at the market can be reduced.
Okay, so some softwares do have this weighted average. I do not know about IntuiFlow. Maybe it is possible, but I do know that you can do this weighted average logic incorporated in SAP IBP.
SAP IBP, yes, you are right. Rightly pointed out that.
Yeah. But I don't think it's very difficult to build that logic even in IntuiFlow. Absolutely not difficult at all.
Because
So-
SAP IBP, I also see that network flow, even for example, we have the different regional depots, servicing depots and mother depots. So the network rule and finally what is the visibility at the last mile delivery taking place from the depot to the plant have the complete seamless visibility. And currently the DDMRP doesn't have that kind of visibility also as per my observation. It is a silos in terms of the bucket level, depot level management only. It is not giving the seamless visibility from the end point to the starting point. So that IBP helps the weighted average kind of thing, and this gives the complete visibility of netting of flow and all those things. So that's the challenge I am feeling with the DDMRP.
So a very solvable. So it's not a DDMRP challenge. It's a current implementation challenge, Ramani. I'm sure the feature is if it is not available in your current DDMRP software, it can easily be incorporated. I'm quite sure about it. And secondly, these are so we have, for example, Michelin and Legrand, we used to get such kind of challenges. It's easily solvable situation. We can discuss it separately, but even you guys can probably solve it on your own. But you'll probably take a little bit more effort. But these are easily solvable within your implementations.
Milan, can I add something?
Yeah, sure, Brendan. Yeah, sure.
So I'm not going to try to solve your situation. I'm going to just speak to a general principle. When it comes to features and what the software can do or can't do, or how do I model my environment to the precision that I want, I think it's always good also to take a step back and to really reflect on the purpose of the buffers and the variability that the buffers can absorb. And it is outside the buffer capability tends to be outside our past experience. And I have seen, not just with DDMRP, but with drum buffer rope and any of the buffers, people searching for precision in the data unnecessarily. That the buffers can absorb even, inaccurate data or imprecise data, right?
Yeah.
Is a source of variability like any other variability. Right?
Okay.
And buffers are designed for this purpose.
Yeah.
So don't wrap yourself in knots over things the buffers could potentially absorb and handle. Because you can go down a rabbit hole of precision sometimes.
Right.
And waste a lot of time. So be careful. I'm not suggesting you don't need more precision. Maybe you do. But reflect on just that principle. That would be my advice.
Yeah. Thanks, Brendan. In fact, one of the things which I suspect the team there, Ramani's team, probably is also not. I don't know if Prasanna would probably be able to answer. Are they looking at buffer charts on a daily basis? And buffer charts would clearly show whether the buffers are being met or not. Are they serving the purpose? Can they absorb this variability or not? So I totally agree with your point, Brendan. Maybe we could take a step back and look at the buffer performance itself and see if it's buffer.
That's where I would start. Well, is it 172-day backward-looking horizon for the ADU? So that's going to produce a very smooth ADU, and maybe it's a little too big of a horizon.
Exactly.
The buffers should be able to give you some insight into that.
Yeah, right. Great, awesome.
There's a question by Pinakin, I guess.
Yeah, Pinakin. Sorry, Pinakin, to keep you holding. Pinakin, go ahead.
Hey, no problem. Just two observations. Rutuma has posted questions, so I wanted you to take cognizance of that. My second point was Neeraj's point, as I understood and what I heard, because he did mention that SFG or RM is not an issue as far as the procurement is concerned. I suspect what he's hinting at is the physical capacity. That means he's pointing at a bottleneck. Because he said that, the model assumes infinite capacity. The reality is we never have infinite capacity. And when you have large number of SKUs, naturally that is conflicting. So I think it's not a question of ADU or DLT, etc. I think it's more about the identification of bottleneck and maybe balancing of the line by adding some additional capacity of the bottleneck process. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Pinakin. I will, and thanks for your comments. I will just say I hear you, but I will not say at this preliminary stage that I would agree with that a preliminary statement. That in fact I would go and look at the buffer performance. In fact, I would start with the looking at what is the team doing. But yes, and you're right. My suspicions are at this moment are pointing towards capacity or something else, but it could be entirely something different. It could be just the size of the buffers or how the buffers are being calculated or the area averaging. So, but you have a fair point there. We need to look at it in more depth. That I agree with you. So, in terms of capacity as well, perhaps. So thanks.
Yeah, and if you can address Rutuman's question, which he has typed in the chat box.
Thanks, Vinay. So I'll just quickly read out all of these questions. There are 3 questions, and I'll respond to them quickly. First question is somebody needs to unmute. Deepak, I think it's you. Yeah. So Rutuma's first question. Can DDMRP work with our existing ERP or APS, which is advanced planning and scheduling software systems, or will we need to invest in a new software? Okay, good question. So DDMRP now, the most famous ERP in the world is SAP S/4HANA now. So the DDMRP works very well with S/4HANA. With Oracle, there have been add-ons which have been created by Trinomics, for Microsoft Dynamics. DDMRP, Microsoft Dynamics is another ERP. The DDMRP is embedded. Odoo, DDMRP, another ERP, DDMRP is embedded. So most of the popular softwares, ERP softwares, have DDMRP embedded into it. So that's the first answer. I don't know which specific software you're talking about, but if it's among these popular ones, DDMRP is. Now about APS. Now APS tools sit on top of ERP. They are dedicated only to planning. They are advanced tools. So I do know that all the popular APS tools, Dassault systems, Blue Yonder, Anaplan. Anaplan is in fact even a financial performance planning system. SAP IBP, all of them have DDMRP features. O9 is developing it. O9 is very, very open. O9 is developing it. They'll probably not go for certification, but they are developing it. And I know they are capable of it. Kinaxis has developed DDMRP, but they are not making it public. But I have seen their internal PPTs. They have developed DDMRP inside. So all of the APS tools, the ones, again, the popular ones, they have DDMRP into the in the software. But again, in case you don't have any of these APS, or even if you don't have any of these ERPs, you can invest in a new software. It's very, very cheap, something like IntuiFlow or other tools. It's easily available. You can do it on Excel just to get started, and then probably go on to some industrial scale software. So that's the first question. Second question is DDMRP applicable to make to order or engineer to order environments? All right, good question. So DDMRP is very much applicable to make to order environments as well. So I was giving an example of packaging companies. The packaging company, that flexible packaging company, they entirely make to order. So Nestle needs to make their cover for Maggie, packaging pouch for Maggie, or something else, or even Cadbury needs to make it for chocolates. It's completely customized for them. So it's make to order business. DDMRP is successfully implemented in such places. So it's totally applicable for engineer to order. I would just reserve it that engineer to order is a little bit more like projects environment. As up to the procuring the material part, you would have to manage it more in terms of a project fashion than make to order business. So that's where I would say a little bit of a limitation starts coming in. You know, you're doing a completely, when I'm saying engineer to order, it's a completely new customized tool, a customized thing being made, like industrial machinery. But Boeing 787 is not a make to order, even though Lufthansa will want it customized for themselves. So be careful. They're very, very limited engineering to order environments, manufacturing environments. That I don't know if there's anybody in this team. Third question. How many of you would be interested? Okay, sorry. So that's not a question. So all right. So this takes care of all of these questions. We've crossed 20 minutes over. Deepak and everybody else, I think we should now close the call. And thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. And thanks especially to Brendan from US for this great anecdotes that you shared about Indigo Red and everything. So, and Prasanna and everyone from the Reflex team. So, thank you. All right.
Yeah, I'll also close the call.